In this anime, the male protagonist wakes up to find a beauty touching his body. Shocked by the male protagonist who suddenly wakes up, the beauty accidentally hurts him. It turns out that this beauty sees the male protagonist in a coma, so she tries to restore his spirit in a special way. To help him heal his wounded body, the beauty says she is willing to serve him. Thus, she is the first member of the male protagonist's harem after he comes to another world. Not long after, he will attract a lowly who is cute and possesses strong divine power, a female knight who has a sexy body and is a bit perverted, and even more than 2,000 villagers in the village become his followers. Why would the male protagonist reincarnate into another world? Let's start with his encounter not long ago. Yukito, the male protagonist, has a father who is the leader of the cult dedicated to the mighty god Matama. In order for his child to become the next leader, his father recently held a ceremony in which he put Yukito in a wooden barrel and threw it into the sea, and his father firmly believed that the god Matama would come to rescue Yukito. If Yukito survives, he is qualified to become the new cult leader. At the moment of being thrown into the sea, Yukito recalled his tragic life. Because of his father, he was forced to participate in various strange rituals since childhood. Sometimes he had to go through the flames, and sometimes he had to stand under the waterfall in winter. But having a perverted father is not the worst, and Yukito has really bad luck. He often stepped on dog shit and got the worst lot when drawing lots in the temple, which makes him despair about his life. Even when he was browsing adult-only websites, he would become glassy-eyed. He hated such a life, and the last thought in his mind when he sank to the bottom of the sea was to be reincarnated into a world without gods and religions. Sometime later, he feels that someone is touching his body. The beautiful woman in front of him is named Alora, and she is holding an adult-only book that explains how to restore the spirit of a man. Until Yukito is woken up by her, Alora stops her action shyly. She is sorry for injuring Yukito's body just now, but Yukito doesn't care, and he is very happy to find out that he has really traveled to another world. Looking at the surroundings, coupled with many reincarnation novels he read before, he thinks that he must now be in the novice village, where there should be an adventurers guild that assigns tasks to adventurers, and he can slowly raise his level by finishing the missions. So he asks Alora if there is an adventurers guild here. Alora thinks Yukito is looking for a job, so she takes Yukito to find a job. On their way, Yukito is still fantasizing that he must show his strength in another world to make up for the misfortune he suffered in his previous life. However, the next moment, Yukito appears on a farmland and is about to farm. There is no adventurers guild in the village at all. Just then, a man named Roy appears, and seeing that Yukito and Alora getting so close, he is a bit unhappy and is about to teach Yukito a lesson. The next moment, a man named Glenn appears to stop Roy. He not only greets Yukito, but also hands Yukito a dagger and asks him to help. Yukito thinks it is a weapon for novices and he needs to fight monsters, but Clint just asks him to help pick the grapes. Yukito thinks to himself that this must be the task assigned by the system for the player, so he intends to do his best to speed up the task, and in less than half a day, he picks the grapes that others need to pick for several days. Clint is a little troubled. In this world, there is no refrigerator or anything like that, and they can't finish so many grapes at all, so finally, he can only throw them away. Hearing this, Yukito seems to have something in mind. The next moment, a carnival is held in the village canteen, and everyone drinks wine. It turns out that Yukito temporarily stays in the restaurant run by Alora and her sister for a month, and during this month, Yukito helps them make wine from the extra grapes. It is their first time drinking such delicious wine, and they are very grateful to Yukito. Even Roy, who previously wanted to beat Yukito up, becomes good friends with him. After that, Yukito thinks of what he did this month, which was either working in the farmland or helping to feed the livestock, completely different from his imagined adventure in another world, and he feels very frustrated. The next day, while he is farming, a wild beast accidentally breaks into the farmland, and Roy takes out a strange book and whispers something as he looks at it. Yukito thinks that Roy is casting magic, which makes him very excited, and he thinks this is the plot that should appear in another world. However, the next moment, Roy flees with Yukito. When they are safe, Yukito learns that the book Roy just took is actually shelter guidelines and emergency measures for meeting beasts. Now Yukito can finally accept the fact that this world is completely different from the otherworldly world in his mind. But compared to the life of being tortured by his father, the life of working with the villagers every day is much better. Just then, he says that he should thank God for allowing him to come to this world. Hearing this, Alora curiously asks him what the god is. After some asking, Yukito learns that there are no concepts such as gods or religions in this world. When a person dies, he dies, and no one believes in reincarnation. Just when he is thinking, he goes out wandering and finds a dead rabbit. At this time, Yukito thinks of a question. Since there is no concept of gods in this world, humans won't be buried in the cemetery after death, but how will they deal with the dead people? Before Yakido can figure it out, Roy arrives with Alara. It turns out that Roy has heard that the bookstore in the Imperial City has purchased some books for adults only which include very exciting content. To satisfy his curiosity, Roy comes to the Imperial City the next day with Yakido and Alara. He warns Yakido not to talk with the city people because they despise village people. Soon after, they arrive at the bookstore, and all three of them are a little excited. But when Yakido opens the book, his excitement vanishes. The adult-only content in the book can only be considered art in his original world, and even some art museums will display such manga. Roy and Alara are very surprised, lamenting that the place where Yakido lived before was so open. After that, they buy a few books and intend to return to the village. Just then, Yakido finds that many people have gathered nearby. When he checks closer, he finds that a group of people has drunk poison under the order of the soldiers. And the next second, this group of people all dies. Yakido is a bit frightened, and he doesn't know what they are doing. Just then, Alara shows up and takes Yakido away. With Alara's explanation, Yakido learns that there is a system called End of Life in this country, and the citizens have to die according to the Emperor's order. Yakido immediately realizes that everyone in this country will go through such a terrifying thing, but Roy tells him that they are special and different. Without thinking more, Yakido returns to the village with them. What they don't notice is that the people behind them are discussing, saying that why the Emperor still doesn't deal with this group of people from the isolation camp because they are obviously a group of filthy defects. At night, while Yakido is sleeping, Alara sneaks into his bed. It turned out that Alara, after reading the forbidden books for adults, wants to try a way to give men more energy. After some time, Alara finally calms down. At this time, Yakido remembers his experience in the Imperial City, and he asks Alara why the people in the city do not like the people of the village. Alara tells Yakido that the village is called an isolation camp by the city's people. After saying this, she shows the brand on her back. The villagers are a group of people who are afraid of the end-of-life system or don't align with the country's ways. Therefore, they are ostracized by the residents of the Imperial City. Yakido is the only one outside the village who does not despise them and allows Alara to touch various parts of his body. He says he was once despised, and that now it is his first time having friends. Touched, Alara looks at Yakido and finds the necklace on Yakido's neck. Yakido remembers that the necklace is an amulet given by his father, and is said to represent the god Mitama. Seeing Alara like the necklace so much, he gives it to her, which makes her very happy. Yakido thinks he will live a peaceful life in the village, but an accident occurs the next day. When he wakes up, he finds Roy wounded in front of the restaurant, and Roy tells him the truth under his questioning. It turns out that this village is used to keep those who are designated by the country as deviants, just like a dump, and the villagers will be forced to go through the end-of-life system at any time. Today is the day when some villagers are taken to go through the system, including Alara and her sister. Just then, Clen shows up on a carriage, and they head to the Imperial City together, hoping to rescue Alara and her sister. When they arrive, Alara's sister and some villagers have already been hanged, much to Yakido's anger. He questions the soldiers. Why are these villagers called deviants because they are afraid of death? Why do they have to experience the end of life? Before the soldier can answer, Yakido hears the mockery of the surrounding residents of Imperial City, and their thoughts are completely different from that of normal people. They think accepting the end of life is obviously their duty. At this moment, the soldier captain kills Yakido with his katana, and the next moment, Alara is also killed. Yakido slowly crawls towards Alara, and he remembers that his father once said that no matter what happens to him, the god Mitama will save him. But he thinks who should be saved by the god is the group of people who are kind and enthusiastic about life in front of him. He prays in his heart that a god will appear to save them, and then he holds the amulet he gave to Alara and recites the incantation in the cult that can summon the god. The next moment, the amulet flies into the air, with the lightning and thunder. A cute little girl appears in the air. As soon as she appears, she rushes to Yakido excitedly, shouting, "Yakido, you finally summoned me." Only then does the little girl discover that Yakido is dead. She becomes extremely furious, and later, countless terrifying black vines come out from her feet, pulling and swallowing all the soldiers into the god's body. The next moment, the little girl becomes cute again, bringing Yakido and Alara back to life with her divine power. After that, the girl rides on Yakido, touching his head gently. Yakido is really curious about who this little girl is, and the girl tells him that she is his god, Mitama. At this moment, the other executed villagers have also come to life, and Mitama is very proud, saying that she only wanted to save Yakido, but her power is so strong and she didn't control it well. Yakido is a little surprised that Mitama has the ability to bring the dead back to life. When Yakido returns to the village with the others, the villagers feel unbelievable. It is their first time seeing those who have undergone the end of life come back alive. To celebrate their safe return, they go to the restaurant to drink again. Later, Mitama is taken away by Alara to get dressed because it is so strange not to wear clothes in this world. Previously, Alara saw Mitama lying on Yakito's body and feels very jealous, so she asks about the relationship between Mitama and Yakito. Mitama says that she is the god of Yakito. Seeing that Alara doesn't know what a god is, Mitama explains that it means they will be together forever from birth to death. Her words make Alara misunderstand that she and Yakito have been married and that Yakito likes such a lowly, while she has an ample body, so Yakito doesn't like her, which makes Alara very frustrated. Now that he and the villagers have offended the royal family, Yakito is thinking about how to face their retaliation, and he learns from Clan that the end-of-life system is a rule established by the emperor hundreds of years ago, and it is impossible to break this rule. At this time, Mitama has changed her clothes and lies on Yakito's body again. And Roy, seeing the cute girl Mitama, is deeply obsessed with Mitama. Unexpectedly, he directly proposes to her, only to be rejected by her, feeling disgusted. After being rejected, Roy awakens his hidden hobby to be a masochist, making the people around him despise him. Seeing Mitama get dressed, Yakito asks her about her power, and Mitama says she is a god that can do anything. Hearing this, Yakito thinks Mitama is the supreme power he gained in another world, and she can help her change his fate. Mitama is also very confident and starts to show her ability, only to find that she is so weak now that she can only knock down a wine glass. Mitama immediately checks the number of her followers and finds that it is 0. She later explains that the more followers the gods have, the more powerful they become. And in this world, she doesn't have any followers, so she has almost no powers left. Since they are in another world, how can there be a follower in Mitama? And knowing this, Yakito is very disappointed. Just then, Mitama notices something wrong. That is, why Yakito isn't a follower in her. What she doesn't know is that Yakito hates religion so much that it is impossible for him to believe in a god. He ignored Mitama's acting like a spoiled child and goes to the bathhouse alone. If he can't figure out a solution as soon as possible, the villagers are likely to be executed by the royal family. While Yakito is thinking, Mitama comes out of the water, and after learning of Yakito's troubles, Mitama reminds him that if he wants to live, he can run away. Yakito, however, tells Mitama that he lived a miserable life previously and had been controlled by his father. In this new life, he doesn't want to be like that anymore, and he wants to save this group of friends he has finally met. As if he has made up his mind, he tells Mitama that since Mitama could use divine power as long as she has more followers, he decides to turn Mitama into a god and create a new religion for her in this world. Meanwhile, after awakening a perverted proclivity because of the appearance of Mitama, Roy often fantasizes that Mitama is his master and rides on him, hurting and controlling him like a queen. So, when Yakito tells Roy about his idea of creating a religion and making Mitama a god, Roy happily accepts the invitation to join the religious organization and becomes Mitama's first follower. Thus, the religious organization that worships Mitama is officially established, and Yakito, the first administrator of the cult, knows that the fastest way for a religion to attract followers is to let the god perform miracles. So he comes up with a plan, and under his arrangement, the first performance begins. Yakito gathers a large number of villagers and declares that Mitama is a god that can do anything. Seeing that people don't know what a god is, Yakito says that he will show them one of Mitama's miracles. He looks at Alara in the crowd, saying that Alara should now have trouble in the personal relationships. Alara immediately gets blushed, saying, "How could you know that?" But what she thinks in her heart is, does he already know that she likes him? Yakito doesn't know what Alara is thinking, but he confidently says that it is Mitama's divine power that sees through her inner thoughts and tells him. In fact, Yakito takes advantage of the very famous Barnum effect in psychology, like a soothsayer who always says something applicable to everyone, so that people will put themselves in the situation that the soothsayer mentioned and think it is right. Just as Yakito is about to continue his performance, Mitama starts to sabotage it. She says that she is a god who knows everything, and then she loudly declares that Alara's trouble is that she has an ample body. After saying this, she reminds Alara that Yakito likes smaller ones. Alara breaks down immediately, directly leaning her chest against a stake, and then she asks for an axe from the villagers. It seems that she wants to deal with her busted body. Yakito hurriedly says that he likes the bigger ones, but he said that the god Mitama knows everything just now, and Mitama clearly said that Yakito likes the smaller ones. So Alara firmly believes that Yakito likes smaller ones indeed. Yakito doesn't know how to explain it, and the miracle performance fails in the end. After that, Yakito thinks of many ways and performs many times, but each time it ends in failure. After working for several days, Mitama still has only one follower, Roy. Only then does Yakito realize that establishing a religious organization is so difficult, and it is really not easy for his father to achieve this. Just then, Alara appears in a panic holding her pet Chilchil, which accidentally eats the poison used to eliminate the beasts. Yakido subconsciously wants to call a doctor, but Alara's sister tells him that the royal family will not save life outside of humans, and there is nothing they can do about it without medical knowledge in the village. In order to save Chilchil, Yakido asks Mitama to help find herbs that may detoxify. However, they come back too late, and Chilchil can't be saved since its condition has worsened a lot. Just when everyone thinks that Chilchil is about to die, Mitama saves it with all her divine power. But unfortunately, the divine power from the perverted follower Roy's belief is still too weak, and Mitama looks much older than before. At this time, Mitama discovers that the number of her followers has become 3, and it turns out that the Alara sisters see that Mitama has resurrected Chilchil and become her followers. Mitama also finds that she has much more divine power now, and Yakido thinks it may be related to the way that someone joins the religious organization. The Alara sisters worship Mitama after they saw her perform the miracle, so they firmly believe in the god Mitama, and therefore, the divine power from their belief must be stronger. But Roy only worships her because he has a strong infatuation with Mitama. After discovering that Mitama has strong divine power, Alara asks her to revive the soldiers she killed before. She believes that those soldiers who are responsible for carrying out the end of life are only following the orders from their superiors, and they should not easily take their lives. Yakido is a little worried, but he doesn't stop it. Soon, Mitama uses her divine power to resurrect those soldiers, but the captain of the soldiers unexpectedly turns into a woman with an ample body. Her name is Bertrand, and she was originally a knight belonging to the imperial city. She wants to return to the palace after her resurrection. However, because of the change of gender, the soldiers guarding the gate do not recognize her at all. Hearing that she just came out of the isolation camp, they drive her away in disgust. Bertrand, who has nowhere to go, spends the night alone in the forest, wondering where she should go if she is really abandoned by the imperial city. Just then, she meets Roy, who says that Bertrand has a really good figure and approaches her obscenely, seemingly trying to harass Bertrand. This frightens Bertrand, and she wants to attack Roy, but without the Emperor's order, she cannot draw her sword and attack ordinary people. Just when Bertrand is desperate, Yakido shows up and beats Roy away. Yakido praises Bertrand as a loyal subordinate, and then taunts that even so, the imperial city has still abandoned her. Bertrand doesn't want to admit it, but she knows that Yakido was telling the truth. Just as Bertrand is frustrated, Yakido offers help. He asks Bertrand to join his team, and he promises to give Bertrand a place to stay. Yakido's sincere words and handsome face make Bertrand's heart race. With her face turning red, she agrees to Yakido's invitation. Soon after, the village's farmland is attacked by monsters, and Yakido appears with Mitama. Mitama confidently summons a sword hidden at the bottom of the sea, asking the villagers to attack the monsters with this sword. However, the villagers are defeated by monsters in an instant, and Yakido can't help but complain that Mitama is as unreliable as ever. At this moment, Bertrand appears handsomely, faced with the attack of the monster. She draws her sword and attacks directly, bursting out with great power in an instant and cutting the giant monster in front of her in half. The villagers around all cheer, and they adore the powerful knight in front of them. Seeing this, both Yakido and Mitama are stunned. Later, Yakido thinks of something and immediately introduces to the villagers that Bertrand is a holy knight of their religious organization, and as long as they are willing to join them, he promises to let Bertrand protect their farmlands from monsters. Although the villagers don't know what the religion is, they still decide to join the organization when hearing that they can be protected as soon as they join Yakido. Meanwhile, the Alara sisters is also trying to attract more people to their organization in their restaurant. They announce to customers that from now on, wine in restaurants will only be served to members of the religious organization, and if they want to drink, they must join the organization. In addition, Yakido also uses the knowledge on Earth to design a jar that can preserve food for a long time, similar to the refrigerator on Earth, and everyone who joins the organization can get one for free, due to the increasing number of the new members. Roy, who is in charge of making the jar, has not slept for 3 days and is very tired. However, as soon as he hears Mitama's orders, he becomes spirited again, and he feels very excited when being abused by Mitama-sama. Besides, Yakido also makes snacks unique to the Earth, the biscuits, and everyone who joins the organization can taste them. He also asks Mitama to use her divine power to massage the organization members, which the villagers enjoy very much. Soon, the number of Mitama's followers has grown to 107. Bertrand's joining and offering benefits to villagers are part of Yakido's plan. In Yakito's opinion, instead of explaining the existence of God to villagers who do not understand God at all, it is better to directly give benefits to those who join the organization. Unlike the previous world in which people join religious organization by faith, he wants to build a religion driven by benefits. As the number of people joining the organization increases, Yakito thinks of a question: how many followers does Mitama need to gain the power to fight the Imperial City? He finds Bertrand to inquire about the Imperial City. When he sees Bertrand, he is a little stunned. Bertrand is wearing a sexy maid outfit, which is completely different from the handsome look she showed before. It turns out that all of this is done by the Alura sisters, who are attracted by Bertrand's beautiful face and sexy body, and in order to satisfy their special proclivity, they force Bertrand to wear a maid outfit. But Yakito has a more important thing to do. He asks Bertrand how many soldiers the Imperial City have. Bertrand thinks Yakito wants to rebel, but Yakito tells her that he only wants to protect this village. Bertrand tells Yakito that the strength of the Imperial City does not lie in the number of soldiers they have. The real reason why the Imperial City can take control for long is that they have a team of Archons, which is an elite unit under the direct control of the Emperor. Legend has it that every member of this team is given special powers by the Emperor, and each of them has the power to destroy a mountain. Knights like Bertrand are no match for them at all. After chatting with Bertrand, Yakito immediately finds Mitama and asks her whether she has the power to destroy a mountain. Mitama tells him that as long as there are 10,000 followers, she can do that. Hearing this, Yakito is a bit desperate. He worked hard for so long but only gained more than 100 followers, and he wonders when he will attract 10,000 followers. Yakito finds Bertrand again, and Bertrand is now dressed in strange outfit again by the Alura sisters. Yakito approaches Bertrand step by step, which makes her very shy. Just when Bertrand thinks that Yakito wants to humiliate her, Yakito pulls out her sword, saying, "This is just an ordinary sword." It turns out that Yakito saw Bertrand easily defeat the monster with this sword, so he wants to know if there is anything special about this weapon and whether it can be purchased in bulk, so that he can equip the religious organization with these weapons to fight against the Imperial City. Bertrand tells Yakito that the sword is not as simple as it seems, and that if the user masters the skill of using it, he can cut off everything in this world. But only those who have a certain position in the army of the Imperial City will be given this weapon with special abilities by the Emperor. That is to say, it is impossible to buy this weapon in bulk. Unwilling to admit failure, Yakito then finds Clan and Alura's sister Sayuril to inquire about the village. It turns out that there are countless isolation camps in this world, and these isolation camps surround the Imperial City, like a human wall guarding the residents of the Imperial City. The total number of villagers in their village is only about 2,000, and even if all of them become Mitama's followers, it is still not enough. Unfortunately, even knowing that there are other villages, Yakito cannot think of a way to increase the number of followers to 10,000 in a short period of time. At night, Yakito is frustrated in the restaurant, and Sayuril comes to comfort him. She tells Yakito that if it weren't for him, they would have been killed by the soldiers, and he has already done a lot for them, so he doesn't need to think too much. Sayuril's words remind Yakito of his father, who said the same thing when he taught Yakito about the religion. The initial members of his father's cult were basically strong men like martial artists, so they used violence to defeat another cult in a certain town and snatch all the members of their cult. With other means, the number of the cult's member was increased from more than 100 to tens of thousands. His father told Yakito not to think too much, and there were many ways to develop the cult, including occupying their territory. Instantly, Yakito seems to think of a solution. The next day, Clan approaches Yakito and asks if he has thought of a way to fight the Imperial City. Yakito asks him does it matter if he breaks the culture of this world when he uses his way. Roy tells Yakito that the village is characterized by freedom, and if Yakito feels that something must be done, then feel free to do it. After receiving an affirmative answer, Yakito says, "Let's try it and see me get this village advanced by 500 years. Soon, a month passes by. During this time, Bertrand patrols the vicinity of the village in strange outfits designed by the Alura sisters every day, in case the Imperial City sends people to attack the village. One day, when patrolling, Bertrand meets a white-haired girl named Adder, the Archon of the Imperial City in the legend. A long time ago, she has been ordered to punish the village that rebel against the end-of-life system, but every time she tries to come to the village, she will be assigned other tasks by an Archon named Loki, who seems deliberately to stall for time. Now Adder finally finished other tasks. Adder easily discovers Bertrand's identity using a special ability, and she takes Bertrand, who appears in the village, as a rebel, and the two break out a fight. Adder easily defeats Bertrand with her great power, but she doesn't kill her because she decides to find out why Bertrand's gender has been changed. when Adder is about to enter the village. She is frightened by the windmills, watering hoses, and the tractors in the village, and she thinks that all of these moving things are the monsters she has never seen. Now, let's go back to 1 month ago. At that time, Yakido told Klen and Sayuro that he would increase the number of Mitama's followers to 10,000 before the Archon arrives. People in this world don't know what gods are. Plus, people may not believe that Mitama is a god due to her appearance. So he increased the number of the followers by bringing people benefits before. Next, he would broaden the scope, intending to use Mitama's abilities to take the village forward in time. Seeing Yakido trust her, Mitama was moved to tears. But what she didn't know is that a disaster is waiting for her. Soon after, Roy is driving a harvester in the field, quickly harvesting wheat. It is his first time using such an amazing tool, and he is very excited. Except for Roy, the villagers are also very excited, and it is their first time seeing a machine from Earth. Such a way of harvesting wheat is dozens of times faster than theirs. Yakido tells the villagers that this tool is a divine instrument created by Mitama-sama, and that as long as they join their religious organization and believe in Mitama, Mitama-sama will grant the followers this instrument. Hearing this, the people on the spot express their desire to believe in Mitama and join the organization. Yakido tells Mitama, who is already exhausted, to give a planting machine and harvester as well as the fuel needed to each of the villagers who joined. Mitama complains that her life will be harvested if she continues like this. Fortunately, Mitama is quickly restored, and she gains more divine power because of the villagers joining. The number of her followers has been increased to 927 now, and it is much faster than the method Yakido used before. Just as Yakido is thinking about what to do next, he sees Alra fetch water from a distant well and get wet after she knocked over the bucket, which makes him inspired. In the next scene, a faucet is installed in Alra's home, and she no longer needs to go to the far well to fetch water. At this time, Sayuro appears and brings swimming suits to the two in front of her. It turns out that Yakido built a modern swimming pool for the village, where the villagers can fully enjoy the summer. Everyone is very happy, and the only one who suffers is Mitama. It turns out that under the orders of Yakido, she pumped out all the groundwater and installed a running water system for the homes of the followers. Such a heavy workload makes her run out of her divine power again, and she is totally exhausted. Fortunately, their effort is not in vain, and the number of followers has been increased to 1,659, causing Mitama to gain more divine power and restore her physical strength. Before Mitama can be happy, Yakido whispers, "Next, I want to make everyone feel exclusivity." At night, the tavern, which originally rarely heats up in the middle of the night, is particularly hopping today because Yakido has installed lights in the tavern, with which they can get light now and party in the tavern until late at night. Besides, each follower can get the chance of installing lights in their houses, and everyone can enjoy the convenience brought by the lights. Sayuro also designs a bunny girl costume for herself and her sister Alra, with the intention to celebrate their victory over the night and to embody the exclusivity that Yakido talked about. Alra was shy at first, but thinking that it is Yakito's idea, she gradually becomes bold. It is definitely the happiest night that the villagers had ever. Meanwhile, on the mountain, Yakido looks at the illuminated village and sighs that electricity is one of the greatest inventions in human history, thanks to which human beings can overcome the night. Everyone is enjoying the night, except for Mitama. She is very weak at the moment because she has exhausted her divine power again. Klen is also shocked by the scenery in the village, and he can't help but lament that even the Emperor has never seen such impressive views, which are far more impressive than that in the Imperial City. Klen's words make Bertrand alerted. How could a villager from the isolation camp know about the Imperial City and the Emperor's thoughts? Klen tells the two in front of him that he was actually working for the Imperial Palace before. While saying this, he takes off his clothes, revealing a mark, which represents that he is not a villager from the isolation camp. After that, he explains that he is just living in the isolation camp according to his own ideas, and he prefers life in the isolation camp to that in the Imperial City. Klen knows that he is acting like a weirdo, but Yakido and Mitama, as well as the gods they often talk about, are even stranger than him. He asks Yakido to explain what a god is. After thinking for a while, Yakido answers that the gods will be mentioned in two situations. One is that people will fabricate a god to forcibly explain some unexplained events. The other is that some religions will create a god to attract some followers to benefit them. Speaking of this, Yakido becomes curious. He can understand why they don't have the second kind of gods he mentioned, but it is very strange that they don't have the first. That is to say, there are no unexplained events in this country. Bertrand says that according to Yakito's words, the god in this country should be the Emperor, because all the natural phenomena that occur in this world will be explained by the assembly that works directly under the Emperor. As long as the assembly still exists, they won't have any unexplained events. Hearing what Bertrand said, Yakido falls into deep thought. because of electricity. In just one night, the number of Mitama's followers has increased to 2008, which is also the number of all villagers. Just when Yukito is about to head to other villages to attract more followers, Roy anxiously informs everyone that Bertrand is captured by a girl. Next, let's go back to the story after Adder defeats Bertrand. Adder thinks that this strange village is likely to pose a threat to the Imperial City. Holding a water pipe, she forces Bertrand to tell what is going on in the village. If Bertrand doesn't tell the truth, she'll break her limbs first. Just as Adder is about to harm Bertrand, Mitama appears, stating that she is a god, and Bertrand is her follower. Like her family, it is her job to protect her followers. When Adder hears the word family, she is very angry, as if she hates the word very much. After Yukito arrives, Bertrand tells him that the girl in front of him is the legendary Archon, and she comes this time to wipe out the village. Adder shoots a beam of energy at the people in front of her, thinking such an attack will be enough to destroy them. However, when the smoke disappears, she finds that her attack is blocked by the giant rock in front of her. Before she can figure out what happened, Mitama unleashes her divine power and summons many human-like monsters, which then rush towards Adder. Adder struggles to fend off Mitama's attacks, and she can't figure out how there can be such a powerful force other than the Archons. Obviously, Adder gradually can't resist with more and more human-like monsters appearing, and at this time, Mitama summons a huge barrier to trap Adder inside. Mitama happily throws herself into Yakito's arms, but not long after she is filled with joy, a beam of energy breaks through the barrier. It turns out that Adder did not use her full strength just now, and at this moment, her clothes have been damaged, with various strange arms floating around her body. Seeing this, Mitama summons giant pythons to attack Adder, and the arms around Adder burst out with a dazzling light, easily absorbing these giant pythons. Yukito is frightened by this, and Adder's power is almost like something from a legend. Now he can only hope that Mitama can defeat Adder. And Mitama, who senses Yakito's emotions, decides to strike the strongest blow. As Mitama recites strange spells, many arms with weapons appear behind her, which are weapons that bring together the powers of millions of different gods, and she wants to use the power of other gods to fight Adder. The power of the two collides fiercely, but in less than 3 seconds, the arms summoned by Mitama disappear. They think Mitama is not worthy of using this power after they see that she has only more than 2,000 followers, so they leave. In this way, Mitama is defeated and falls to the ground, while Adder, who is in the air, is also seriously injured. Yukito hurries forward to hug the injured Mitama, and just then, Yakito's companions appear. They come here to care for them despite the dangers of the battlefield. Seeing this, Adder is furious, and she seems to hate seeing people caring for each other, so she decides to completely destroy everything in front of her. As terrifying power gathers in Adder's hand, a huge energy ball appears, and then she throws it at the distant village. As the energy ball explodes, the village will be completely destroyed. Just when Yukito is desperate, things turn around, with an unknown person snapping his finger. A strange light flashes, and Adder finds that the village is still intact. It turns out everything that happened just now is an illusion, and the explosion is not in the village. Just then, Clan shows up and snaps his finger. With a flash of light, he turns into a girl. It is soon revealed that Clan is the Archon Loki who has been stopping Adder from coming to the village, and she has been hiding her identity to live in the village. Just when everyone is confused about what happened, Loki suddenly moves to Yakito's side and asks him whether he wants the Emperor to be killed. Hearing Loki's words, everyone is shocked and feels unbelievable. So she says, I will kill the Emperor immediately. When Adder hears this, she is furious, thinking Loki has defected, and then she attacks Loki. The next moment, Loki instantly moves behind Adder and pierces Adder's body with a sharp blade. Just when Adder thinks she is about to die, Loki snaps her fingers, and the scene changes immediately. Adder is not injured, but her hands are tied. It turns out that everything just now was an illusion cast by Loki. After that, Loki says she will take everyone on the spot to the Imperial Palace. Loki is very powerful. Though Yukito doesn't know what Loki wants to do, he can only go to the palace according to Loki's wish. With the Archon Loki leading the way, they aren't stopped by soldiers, and soon they meet the Supreme Emperor of this world. When Adder sees the Emperor, she quickly kneels down and asks for forgiveness for failing to wipe out the isolation camp. The Emperor does not blame Adder, saying that he has long predicted it. The Emperor behaves very wisely, and he seems to be able to see through people's hearts. He mocks Yukito for the foolishness of creating a religion for people to believe in gods, and he has seen countless nations fight for gods and eventually perish. Just when Yukito feels shocked that the Emperor knows about the gods, there is a loud noise next to him. Mitama destroys a machine in the palace, and then says, I think this machine is the one that makes all of you very strange. The next moment, the Emperor, who was originally sitting on the throne, turns into a skeleton, and all the soldiers guarding around disappear. Under Loki's explanation, they finally know what happened. It turns out that everything they saw just now was an illusion created by the machine in the palace. As for Mitama, she can be not affected by the illusion because she is a god. The emperor died a long time ago, and the machine in the palace not only created illusions, but can also independently analyze the country's economy, population growth and decline, and natural phenomena, and then deal with it and explain it properly. For hundreds of years, the machines inside the palace have been controlling all manner of things in this country. To put it simply, the machines are a bit like the AI in modern times. These machines can always work out the best plan to manage the country, including working out the end-of-life system to keep the population in balance. Yakido really can't understand why this world is so technologically advanced. Seeing Yakido so distressed, Mitama tells him the truth she knows. It turns out that the human civilization of this world has been destroyed once, and among the surviving people, there is an organization that eliminated all belief in the gods, and then used science and technology to create this country that will never perish. Perhaps only by truly governing the country in a machine way can human beings live forever. As for why Mitama is so aware of everything here, it is because this world is not an isekai at all, but the future Earth. Before his death, Yakido made a wish to go to a world without gods. After hearing Yakito's wish, Mitama used her divine power to see the future, and finally discovered this human civilization without gods tens of thousands of years later on Earth. That's why Yakido was brought here. Yakido is a little devastated when he learns the truth, and he can't imagine that the era he lived in has disappeared from history. Ignoring Mitama's explanation, Loki begins to persuade Mitama to destroy all the machines in the palace so that the Imperial City will no longer exist and the isolation camp doesn't need to worry about the revenge from the Imperial City. At this moment, Yakido suddenly attacks Loki, and Loki, who is very powerful, is easily subdued by Yakido. It turns out that Loki's constant persuasion of Mitama to destroy the machines arouses Yakito's suspicions. Loki is very powerful, so why she doesn't take action herself but asks Mitama to destroy the machines? Yakido guesses that there should be some kind of machines that limit Loki's strength in the palace, and now it seems that he guesses right. He then presses Loki about her purpose and why she is destroying the country. With Loki's explanation, her past is slowly revealed. Loki grew up in this country full of rules, and she witnessed her father undergoing the end of life. Only seconds passed when her father's life was taken away, and people around only showed indifference. In Loki's opinion, even weak bugs have a strong desire to survive, and she cannot understand the human behavior of gladly accepting death. She began to hate the country full of rules and wonder why the emperor had created such a country. After becoming an Archon, she accidentally came across information about ancient civilizations. At that time, humans were not dominated by machines and lived according to their own ideas. They believed in the existence of gods, and the strangest thing was that the names of those gods were exactly the same as those of the Archons, including her name Loki. She didn't understand all this, and often entered the nearby isolation camp disguised as villager Klen when she was distressed because there are no rules in this village, and the people here live very freely. She thought she would live like this forever until Yakido appeared in the village. Loki discovered that Yakido has knowledge that ordinary people do not have, and that he knows about the existence of gods. Since then, she has often stayed in the village, and during this time, she witnessed the appearance of Mitama and the new machines that Yakido brought to the villagers, which helped the village grow. She learned about the gods from Yakido, and knew that the more followers the gods have, the stronger the power of the gods will be. During then, there was a very interesting incident. Yakido discovered Mitama had more and more followers, and he decided to formulate a doctrine, which was things the organization aims to do or things all followers have to believe. Roy proposed the cloth that covers women's bodies be under 10% of their body's surface area. In this way, women could be sexy, and there would be less laundry to do. In the end, he was beaten up by Siluril. Then, Siluril also offered her ideas for the doctrine. That was, her sister was the cutest in the country, and enjoy the wine. Yakido was very troubled to see people propose all kinds of strange doctrines. And finally, it was Klen's doctrine of live freely that was adopted by Yakido, who was very satisfied with Klen's doctrine and praised him before leaving. "You are the most trustworthy person in the village." This made Mitama jealous. She reminded Klen not to be tempted by Yakido because of his praise, and that Yakido is her follower. Loki was surprised to find that Mitama was undisturbed by her power and could tell that she is a woman. It was also from that time that Loki had plans to bring Mitama into the palace to destroy the machines. Later, Loki conducted an experiment in which she made 10 villagers see the illusions in the next village, eventually making them her followers. To her surprise, her strength increased a lot. Loki guessed that the Archons were an imitation of gods, and it was normal to have gods' abilities. Knowing this, she wants to become a true god and destroy this country full of rules and restrictions, and make the world get back its original freedom. Loki tells everyone on the spot that she has told the other Archons that she is going to destroy the palace, and none of the Archons came out against it. That is to say, these Archons are also tired of the world and want to recruit followers and become true gods. After listening to Loki's story, Yakido thinks for a moment and finally agrees with Loki's idea of destroying the Imperial City. In his opinion, if the Imperial City still exists, the villagers can't get rid of being killed. Under Yakito's order, Mitama unleashes her divine power and completely destroys the palace. Loki is very excited. The destruction of the Imperial City means the arrival of a new era of gods. She asks Yakido what he is going to do next, and Yakido, touching Mitama's head, says, "Only Mitama is the real god, and all of you are fakes." He will continue recruiting followers for Mitama to fight against these Archons. Since then, the Imperial City that rules this country for countless years has completely disappeared. At night, villagers are celebrating that there will be no end-of-life system anymore and they don't need to be afraid of the terrifying Imperial City. Only Yakido knows that the real crisis has just begun. After her last drink, Loki is about to leave. Perhaps when she meets Yakido again, they will become enemies. Hearing that Loki will return to the Imperial City, Bertrand quickly catches up with her, because she doesn't want Loki to do whatever she wants in the chaotic Imperial City. Loki is gone, but Adder stays, who is losing faith because of the destruction of Imperial City. Just as Adder is in despair, Yakido comforts her that he will help her defeat other Archons, and that by gathering the power of other Archons, he may be able to revive the Council of the Imperial City. Adder is curious as to why Yakido is willing to help her. Yakido tells Adder that he is sad to see children like Adder crying. Immediately afterwards, he personally feeds Adder ice cream, and it is the first time that Adder has eaten such delicious food. Adder is conquered by the delicious food and the gentle boy, which is also an important part of Yakido's next plan. Soon after, he announces to the villagers that their religion will implement a two-god system, and Adder will be the new god. Adder's adorable appearance soon attracts the worship of the villagers, and Adder is surprised to find that her power, which was originally unavailable due to the disappearance of the Imperial City, is now available again. After that, Adder gradually integrates into this group. Under Yakito's arrangement, Adder and Mitama start to help the villagers of other isolation camps to eliminate monsters, and bring them to try the delicious food and high-tech tools in their village. Soon, they attract a large group of followers, and now there are more than 6,000 followers in total. Interestingly, Adder has more followers than Mitama, which makes the latter a bit angry. While they are frantically increasing the number of followers, other Archons also take action. Yakido receives news that a nearby Archon named Dakini has established a new religion with more than 10,000 followers. In order to eliminate the potential threat, Yakido decides to sneak inside the enemy and destroy it. So Yakido selects Roy, Mitama, and Alra to participate in the plan. After they make a plan and come to the stronghold of Dakini's religion, they are very shocked. Every follower here is discussing intimacy. No wonder this religion can attract more than 10,000 followers in such a short time. Yakido and his companions are greeted by a girl with glasses named Rish. She is one of the administrators here, and the followers here adore Rish, who seems to be very skilled in intimate interactions. After hearing that 4 new followers have arrived, Rish asks Yakido and his companions to be divided into 2 groups, each of which contains a male and a female, to see Dakini respectively. Yakido and Alra are in a group, while Roy and Mitama are in another one, and they are taken to different rooms. Not long after, Yakido sees Dakini, who is a cute girl with a sexy body. Hearing that Yakido wants to join her religion, she tells him that based on their doctrine, they are allowed to release their desire at any time, and then she leaves. The next moment, Yakido and Alra suddenly feel very hot, and a strange feeling fills their bodies. Alra throws herself on Yakido, saying that she is going to do something shy with him. It seems that they are spiritually controlled by Dakini's power. Just when the two are about to lose control, Roy suddenly is beaten away from next door. It turns out that just now Roy was also influenced by Dakini's power and wanted to have intimate interactions with Mitama. But fortunately, Mitama is a true god and is immune to Dakini's mind control, and she directly beats Roy away. After that, everyone calms down. Just then, Rish hears the noise and rushes over to check, and Yakido quickly holds Rish down and tells her not to reveal everything she saw. Strangely, Rish suddenly begins to imagine Yakido humiliating her, which might also be related to Dakini's power. Rish is very desperate, claiming herself to be a virgin. She asks them how they can be immune to Dakini's power, and when hearing that Mitama claims to be a true god, Rish immediately kneels down and prays to Mitama to help her destroy the religion. It seems that there is another reason why Rish joined this religion. Under Rish's explanation, everyone finally knows the reason why Rish is so well versed in intimate interactions. It is not because she is experienced, but because she used to like to read forbidden books, from which she learned a lot of knowledge. After telling some relevant knowledge to other believers, she is mistaken for a horny girl by them. She doesn't want to be surrounded by these perverts every day, and she keeps thinking of leaving this organization. That's why she begs Yakido to destroy it. Yakido thinks that if he can use the important roles of this organization, he will be able to achieve his goals more easily. Just as Yakido is thinking about what to do, Mitama finds that the number of her followers is decreasing. It turns out that when she is not in the village, Adder helps the villagers defeat many monsters, so the followers who believe in Mitama turn to Adder. Yakido has long predicted this. When the god leaves the place she is protecting, her followers will be easily attracted to other gods. The most important thing now is to quickly destroy Dakini's organization, and Yakido has a plan. He first asks Riche to use her status as an important role in the organization to help them gain the trust of other members. Dakini often goes to other strongholds of the organization for the edification of the followers, so Yakido intends to do something during Dakini's absence. A few days passed, and Dakini has been recruiting followers in a nearby village, but she finds that although the number of followers is increasing, her divine power has not increased much. Just then, several followers recommend some items used for intimacy to Dakini, which are said to be able to bring more joy to their activities. Dakini finds that she has never seen these things and quickly asks about how they got it. When she learns that it was Riche who offered it to the followers, Dakini seems to have guessed something. At this moment, Riche is teaching many followers about the knowledge and items of intimate interactions for free. The followers seem to enter a new world, and they worship Riche more and more. This is why Dakini's divine power hasn't improved, as many followers now turn to Riche. These are the plans of Yakido, who asks Mitama to use her divine powers to create many of the items used for intimacy on Earth, and also teaches Riche modern knowledge about intimate interactions. Followers are more easily influenced by the people who teach them, and he wants to use this to get Riche to snatch Dakini's followers. When Dakini returns and discovers Riche's actions, she finally realizes that the reason why her power has not increased lately is that Riche is snatching her followers. She dismisses Riche's behavior as a rebellion, so she arrests Riche and Yakido, who instigates Riche. Interestingly, Roy, who left not long ago, is now a faithful follower in Dakini, because Dakini told Roy that even without a partner, it was also a wonderful experience to play with his right hand. Brainwashed by Dakini, Roy is completely conquered. Soon, Riche is taken to the execution ground, and Dakini is going to punish the betrayer in front of the followers. But this time she makes a mistake. Riche cries loudly, saying that she did all this because she wants to help Dakini with the edification of the followers, so that they can better understand Dakini's ideas, and that she never has any idea of betraying Dakini. If Dakini does not believe in her, she would rather die. The followers watching nearby are so impressed by Riche's sincerity that they all begin to beg for mercy for her. All of this is Yakido's plan. Not long ago, Yakido made a plan to snatch the followers. He knows that this will absolutely be discovered by Dakini, and began to train Riche's acting skills. He wants these followers to believe that Riche is absolutely loyal. If Dakini is determined to punish Riche, she will lose the trust of many followers. Dakini notices Yakito's sneer and has already guessed that it is all Yakito's plan. She remembers that Loki told her that there was a human who would prevent the Archons from establishing a religion, and Yakito is supposed to be this human. Dakini can't lose the trust of many followers, so she decides not to punish Riche for the time being and to imprison them instead. She thinks for a long time alone in her room. Though she likes Riche very much, she can't tolerate betrayal. So she sends her subordinates to eliminate these traitors secretly in prison. Since Mitama created many items and lost many followers before, she has almost no power left, and Yakito is in a very dangerous situation. We are now brought into Dakini's memory. She was created by the early royal family and born with the ability to awaken love. She thought the king was going to use her abilities to increase the population by growing people's desires. However, the king told her that she was not to awaken love, but to restrict human love. The royal family does not rely on pregnancy to have children, because they can breed humans artificially. Only when all humans no longer give birth to babies on their own can the royal family control population growth artificially, thus controlling the world. Since then, Dakini had been photographing humans every day with her cell phone-like tool. As long as humans were photographed, they would completely lose their desire for love as well as the ability to have intimate interactions. Thousands of years have passed, and humans have mutated to be a species without love or the ability to give birth. If this continued, Dakini would lose her significance of existence. So she compiled her knowledge about intimate interaction into books, hoping to awaken love hidden in humans' heart. However, humans who had lost the ability to have intimate interaction couldn't understand her books at all, and these books got banned later. Many more years passed, and Dakini found a girl named Toka, who liked these forbidden books very much. It turned out that Toka was a very rare person in this world, who could fall in love since birth. Dakini also liked Toka very much. The girl lived freely with love, unlike the humans who had lost their vitality and lived like robots. Toka was longing for giving birth to a child, and Dakini believed that it was what humans should be like. Dakini had always been with her growing up. However, the inhabitants of the city hated the girl so much that Toka was eventually banished to the isolation camp as an outlier. Since then, Dakini had never seen Toka. It turned out that these inhabitants were bred artificially, and they were afraid of Toka, who always wanted to give birth to children on her own. Years later, by the time Dakini heard from Toka again, she had been killed by the villagers. Dakini was very desperate and vowed to restore the world to its original state. She wants to create a world where humans can fall in love, start a family, and have children. As the memory ends, we're back to the prison where Yakido is kept. As the subordinates sent by Dakini are about to fight against Yakido, Adder along with Sayuro appears and rescues them. At this moment, the number of Adder's followers has increased to more than 6,000. All of this is Yakito's plan. He deliberately took Mitama away from the village, so that the villagers could be attracted to Adder, who is much stronger in the fight. Therefore, Adder will have more followers and gain more power from them. Then, it's time for the final attack on Dakini. They soon find where she is and launch an attack. At this moment, Dakini finds Rish holding a book in her hand, which used to be Toka's. Just as she is about to ask Rish where the book comes from, she is interrupted by Adder's attack. When Adder and Dakini are fighting, Rish performs other tasks with Mitama, but she is puzzled why Dakini said her mother's name just now. At this moment, the battle between Adder and Dakini has entered a climax, but everyone underestimates Dakini's strength. She has already absorbed more than 14,000 followers during the battle and knocks down Adder easily after transformation. Later, Dakini infects them with uncontrollable lust. As the three girls approach and hug Yakido tightly, the ground suddenly cracks and the tentacles of many plants stretch out to separate them. The next moment, Mitama and Rish show up. Just now, Rish told the believers in the organization that Mitama is the real god with advanced knowledge of intimate interactions, and she will not only teach everyone new knowledge, but also give believers more tools. With her prestige in the organization, Rish formed a new faction, which caused many followers of Dakini to turn to Mitama. Thus, Mitama once again gained powerful divine power. Dakini thought that losing some followers would not affect her combat power, only to find her abilities actually disappearing. It turns out that Mitama remembered that among the gods she knew, there was also a god named Dakini. She deduced that this Dakini was just the Archon of this world who could only borrow her power from the real god. So she traveled to the world of the real god Dakini and begged her to reclaim the power of the Archon. The real god also felt that the recent behavior of Archon Dakini in making the believers go on an intimacy spree was a bit excessive, so she promised Mitama to temporarily withdraw Archon Dakini's divine powers. Therefore, even if the current Dakini has a large amount of believers, she cannot use divine power. Dakini finally realizes that something is wrong and tries to escape, but is stopped by Roy at the door. Not long ago in prison, Yakido handed Roy a note saying that as long as he helped the woman when she was in danger, he would win her heart. Roy has always liked Mitama, so he believes that if he helps Mitama stop Dakini, he will reap Mitama's favor. While Roy stops Dakini, Adder attacks and completely defeats Dakini. Though defeated, Dakini still doesn't understand why would she, with such strong power, fail in the end. Yakido tells her that it is because she is always alone, while he has so many partners around. Then, Rish finally comes up and asks Dakini how she knew Toka's name, and Toka was her mother. Hearing this, Dakini is caught up in memories that Toka once told her that she wanted to find a man she loved, have a child of her own with him, and let the child become Dakini's best friend. Rish is the child of Toka and the man she loved. At this moment, Dakini awakens and starts her confession. She should not have made humans obsessed with physical pleasure and lose their thinking about love. She shouldn't have abused her abilities to get people caught up in the lust for intimacy. And it's not the world she wants. Dakini is captured as a loser, and Yakido wants to make all of Dakini's followers believe in Mitama, but Dakini rejects him. It seems that she is not yet on Yakito's side. Without Dakini's permission, they can't force the followers to believe in Mitama. Soon after, Rish finds Dakini, who is in prison. She tells Dakini that Dakini and her mother, Toka, are good friends, so she will be on Dakini's side, which touches Dakini. After some time, Rish comes to Dakini with Yakido, who is tied and is like an obedient puppy under Rish's control. She tells Dakini that she has completely controlled Yakido and that Dakini's religious organization can now continue its activities. However, the organization is now divided into two factions, one believing in Riche and the other in Dakini. Riche wants to bring the two factions together again, and she asks Dakini to let her shoulder this great responsibility. Eventually, Dakini accedes to Riche's request. All of this is in Yakito's plan. And now let's have a look at the story not long ago. People of the Riche faction already believed in the god Mitama, and as long as all the people in the organization join the Riche faction, they can get all the followers in this organization. So Riche came up with a way, that is, to train Yakito using the same way as Dakini training her subordinates, so that Dakini would think that Riche was in control. In order to make it more real, Riche's training became very crazy, and she even invited the Aura sisters to join the training. Yakito could only endure all this in order to achieve his goal. Back to the present time, Yakito and the others have already boarded the carriage back to the village, and after this operation, the number of Mitama's followers has now reached more than 10,000. Yakito guesses that Dakini has already seen through his conspiracy but still agree for Riche's sake. Just then, they encounter a monster blocking their way, but it is easily defeated by Adder. During these days, the number of Adder's followers has also reached more than 10,000, even a little more than Mitama's, which makes Mitama very angry. When she is about to quarrel with Adder, a group of monsters appears in front of the carriage. Though Adder is powerful, she can't attack so many monsters at once. Yakito's carriage is soon crashed by the monsters, and luckily, Mitama casts magic to protect them. When the monsters leave, Yakito discovers that the monsters are heading to the village. By the time they reach the village, it has been destroyed by the monsters. Fortunately, the villagers hide in time and are now safe. The village is their base, and if it is destroyed, it will be difficult for them to continue their mission. So, at the request of Yakito and others, Mitama casts a spell to restore the village. To celebrate the reconstruction of the village, the villagers hold a party. At this moment, the only person who is tortured is Mitama. It takes her a lot of mana to rebuild the village, and the divine power she obtained from the followers this time has basically been consumed. Yakito thinks that there is something wrong about the monster's attack. Just then, a villager comes to inform everyone that the monster has reappeared and Roy is in danger. When everyone finds Roy, he is carrying a loli on his back to avoid the monster's attack. Adder strikes in time to kill the monster. Roy wants to check on the loli's injuries, but is thrown to the ground by her. After that, the loli pretends to be injured again and begs for everyone's help. Yakito sees something is wrong and asks Adder to check on the situation. However, the loli directly hugs Adder and forcibly kisses her. The next moment, the loli completely recovers from her injuries. The loli says that she is the Archon Gaia with the ability to control monsters, and she comes here to discuss something with Yakito. Before Gaia can continue her speaking, Yakito launches a sneak attack to knock Gaia down and tie her up. Although Gaia is also an Archon, she has only 2 followers and is weak. Previously, the monster would attack Yakito's carriage because she wanted to test Yakito's strength. However, due to the lack of followers, she is so weak that the monster rushed to the village out of control, and even she was attacked by the monster. The reason why she came here this time is that she wants to defeat Loki, who has now occupied the Imperial City. Gaia worries that Loki will be very powerful and will attack the other Archons. That's why she wants to join forces with Yakito. Yakito is also curious about Loki's current strength, so he takes everyone to the Imperial City. Everything here surprises him. Now the Imperial City is surrounded by a high wall, and all creatures that try to enter it will be attacked. As they approach, they are blocked by Bertrand, who is covered in black armor and appears to have been controlled by Loki. At this moment, Loki suddenly appears next to Yakito, asking him why he brings a group of losers here. Mitama is dissatisfied, saying that she is not a loser and now has more than 10,000 followers. Loki sneers after listening to Mitama's words, and she now has 1.12 million followers. Though surprised, Yakito says, "I can't imagine that you have so few followers. Now let's go back and we don't need to investigate anymore. Loki, if you dare to cause trouble, I'll kill you." After saying this, he leaves with the others. Loki is a bit confused. She is now so powerful, but why is Yakito not afraid of her? Soon after, Yakito returns to the village. In fact, he is really scared, and what he said just now is just to escape and scare Loki. They take Bertrand back this time, and with Bertrand's explanation, they finally understand why Loki has so many followers. When the Imperial City completely lost order due to the destruction of the royal family, Loki used her ability to create the illusion that the royal family still exists, so that the residents of the Imperial City can live an orderly life again. That's why Loki gained so many followers. The fact that Loki has over 1 million followers makes everyone desperate. But then Yakito finds the key to defeating Loki. He thinks the real faith of the residents is not Loki, but the royal family, and he is surprised to know that it will also bring Loki divine power. Now they learn about this, and Yakido thinks of a good way. He intends to create a song princess loved by everyone around the world to win the admiration of fans and gain the power of faith. Under Yakito's arrangement, it doesn't take long for the world's first band to be formed, and it soon gains a large number of fans. The lead singer of the band is Alara, and the other members are Adder, Siluril, and Gaia, who recently came to the village. Mitama feels that she is cute and is more suitable to be the lead singer, and she complains that Yakido does not let her participate in the band. The next moment, she finds that her divine power has increased, but the number of her followers is still the same. Yakido tells her that he has discovered that the divine power of the gods has a lot to do with the cohesion of the entire religion in addition to the number of followers. There is no music in this world, and the appearance of the band greatly enriches people's entertainment life, which is why the band can attract fans so quickly. Since the band is established in the name of their religion, these followers now have a greater sense of belonging to the religion and stronger cohesion, and that's why Mitama's divine power is stronger. An interesting incident happens during the formation of the band. Bertrand wants to become the guitarist in the band, but because of her poor talent in music, she is rejected by Yakido. Bertrand is saddened that she fails to help them, and Yakido comforts her, saying that even if she can't do anything, she is an indispensable person in the organization. Now Yakido wants to ask Bertrand to do something. Bertrand is moved by Yakido and immediately promises him that she will do whatever he wants. Yakido then asks her to follow Gaia secretly. Gaia is a new member of their organization, and Yakido still feels uneasy about her. When tracking Gaia, Bertrand discovers that Gaia always deliberately approaches some children and tries to trick them into visiting her home. However, she uses so low-level methods to deceive the children that they all despise her or are scared away. Later, Bertrand finds out that Gaia has come to a nearby house where 5 young children call her mother, and they have a very good relationship. Bertrand tells Yakido about this, and Yakido immediately guesses that it is Gaia's religious organization. The smallest form of religion is a family. The different lifestyles of each family can be regarded as special rituals of religion, and the head of the family is the leader. Gaia goes everywhere to trick children into the house as well as calling her their mother, and once the relationship is established, these followers are absolutely loyal and have great cohesion. Even if she has very few followers, her power will be strong. Yakido does not want such a formidable opponent hidden around him, so he decides to destroy Gaia's religious group. To do this, he has to find someone to help. The next morning, when Yakido is waiting for the person to appear, Bertrand suddenly hugs him and begins to undress him, intending to do something shy with him. It turns out that this is all done by Dakini, who deliberately controls Bertrand to tease Yakido. Fortunately, Riche appears in time to stop Dakini from controlling Bertrand, and Bertrand immediately flees shyly. Because of Riche, Dakini reconciles with Yakido. The reason why Dakini shows up here is that Yakido asked Riche to bring her here. Yakido wants to use Dakini's ability to control people's minds to snatch Gaia's family. Dakini doesn't want to agree at first, but Yakido tells her that Gaia is likely to be using these children, and if they lose their value, the innocent children will be abandoned. Dakini thinks of the innocent children of the Imperial City and finally agrees to Yakido's request. So they start their plan. Yakido and Mitama find an excuse to stall Gaia, making her unable to return home for the time being. Dakini takes advantage of this time to approach several children in Gaia's family, but instead of using her ability to control people's minds, she makes the children like her with her actions, and with her efforts. 3 children are fond of her. Unfortunately, there are 2 slightly older children who are very wary of Dakini. Gaia once told the 2 children not to approach any strangers. Dakini wants to persuade the 2 children to play with her. Unexpectedly, the next moment, these 2 children summon monsters. Since Dakini transferred all the followers to Riche, with Dakini's divine power now, she cannot fight these monsters at all, and she falls into a very dangerous situation. Dakini immediately flees with 3 children. One of the children who summon monsters to attack them, a little girl, is named Cyan. The monsters were lent to the 2 children by Gaia as pets to prevent someone from destroying their family. Just then, a memory flashes through Cyan's mind. In this world, humans were created by the Imperial City. When the children reach a certain age, they will be assigned to the adults in the city and raised by them. Cyan grew up in such an environment, and her parents treated her very well. She thought she was living a happy life. But one day, her parents were taken to undergo the end-of-life system. She didn't want to lose them, so she rebelled, which made her parents feel ashamed. In the end, Cyan was sent to the isolation camp. Only then did she realize that her parent took care of her only to complete the task assigned by the king, and they didn't love her at all. On her way to the isolation camp, she was attacked by monsters, and it was Gaia who saved her and promised to let her live in a perfect family. It gave Cyan hope, and she vowed to protect her family. Cyan's memory ends here. When she catches up with Dakini, the monsters are already defeated by Yakido and his companions. Yakido has already guessed that something might happen, so he heads to support Dakini with others. At this moment, the ground suddenly shakes and Gaia appears. Cyan thinks Gaia comes to save her and immediately throws herself into Gaia's arms. Unexpectedly, the next moment, Cyan falls into the ground, and Gaia stops smiling, saying that the family game is over. Suddenly, a very large monster appears nearby, which is created by Gaia. This monster is so powerful that Adder can't cause damage to it. Luckily, at the critical moment, the Alara sisters drive a truck to leave with Yakido and the others together. This monster is named Typhon. Although it took many years to create Typhon, as long as it is created, it will be completely loyal and it doesn't need much divine power to control it. While Yakido is thinking about how to defeat the monster, part of the monster's body suddenly emerges from the ground and crashes into the truck. This monster is tens of thousands of meters long, and Yakido and his companions have not run out of the range covered by the monster just now. Yakido falls from the truck and is later pierced by the monster. Seeing this, Mitama rushes to him, but both of them are bitten apart by the monster. The others flee back to the village, and just when they all think that Yakido and Mitama are dead, Alara's necklace glows. The next moment, a hallucination of Mitama appears, telling them that she and Yakido are not dead and are now trapped in the body of the monster. Although the monster is very powerful, they still decide to find a way to rescue Yakido. At this moment, Yakido has woken up and finds himself trapped in the body of the monster. Gaia transforms from a little girl into a sexy woman, which is a fighting form of the Archons. She tells Yakido that she has tried to kill him 300 times, but each time he was revived by Mitama, whose divine power is almost exhausted. At this moment, Yakido sees through the monster's internal eyes that they are approaching the Imperial City. Gaia tells Yakido that she is now going to wipe out Loki's religion in the Imperial City. Gaia has lived in this world for a long time. Before the royal family showed up, Gaia's mother created a cult to satisfy her desire. She even consolidated her position by hurting Gaia, which kept Gaia living in pain. Until one day, she could no longer withstand it. She killed her mother and destroyed the cult herself. Later, the royal family appeared, which adopted her and made her into an Archon. Each Archon has a similar tragic experience, as if this is a necessary thing to become an Archon. Because of these tragic experiences, Gaia hates religion very much. Since the disappearance of the royal family, various religions have emerged around the world, and her goal is to destroy all of them. She originally wanted to use Yakito's religion to defeat Loki's religion, but it was discovered by Yakido. During this time, she discovered that Yakido often expanded his religion by deceiving others, which is very similar to what her mother did before, so she hates Yakido very much. What she doesn't know is that her mother created religion out of desire, but Yakido created religion to protect everyone. Just as Gaia is about to kill Yakido again, she discovers through the eyes of the monster that Yakito's companions have actually set up a stage nearby and are holding a grand concert. She has no idea what these people are doing. Soon, she knows the answer. These people hold a grand concert to attract the surrounding villagers to be their fans, and using their worship, they can gain more divine power, which strengthens Adder's divine power by several times. Dakini also gains the love of fans at this concert, thus gaining a lot of divine power. Encouraged by Rish, she and Adder launch a fierce attack on the monster Typhon. Unfortunately, Typhon is much more powerful than they thought, and their attacks only slightly stop him from going forward and can't defeat him. So Yakito's companions start up a plan B. Adder gets on the stage holding a microphone, telling her fans that she is very grateful for their support and that she is very happy when getting along with them. But from this day on, she will no longer be a god in the religion, hoping that her followers can believe in Mitama. Their plan is simple, which is to let Mitama gain more followers so that she can gain more powerful divine power. In this way, they can defeat Gaia directly inside Typhon and stop the monster from going forward. After listening to Adder, these followers are not very willing to accept this fact. Suddenly, Rish tells everyone that after Adder quits her duty as a god, she will serve the followers in the audience. Hearing this, the followers go completely crazy. They no longer reject Adder's proposal and become Mitama's followers. In this way, Mitama gains a large number of followers and greatly strengthens her power, with which she cooperates with Yakido and completely defeats Gaia. As the monster typhon disappears, Mitama shows up in front of everyone with Yukido in her arms. Seeing Yukido, Aura immediately throws herself into his arms, and everyone else shows a smiling face. Next, it is time for the trial of Gaia, a boy who was adopted by her. Kai wants to kill her, but is stopped by Cyan. Cyan has taken Gaia as her mother. She was very happy with Gaia during this time and felt the warmth of family, so she wants everyone to give Gaia another chance. And she doesn't want this hard-won family to be destroyed again. Gaia is touched by Cyan's words. In fact, she also lived a miserable life. Since she was born, she has been used by her mother, and was later made into a tool by the king to keep the country running. As a lonely person, she has longed for the company of family. In the end, she and Cyan hug each other, and Cyan vows to form a real family. After this incident, the villagers hold a banquet to celebrate their victory. Yukido may have thought of his tragic childhood after listening to Gaia's miserable life. Despite her previous disgusting behavior, Yukido doesn't blame Gaia, and instead, he takes her and her children in. However, in order to prevent Gaia from betraying them later, he sends the boy, Kai, to spy on her. Previously, Yukido discovered that Kai has a crush on Cyan, and the most important reason why Kai is so angry about Gaia's actions is that Gaia hurt Cyan. So, Yukido tells Kai that if he wants Cyan to be happy, he must keep an eye on Gaia. When everything is arranged, Yukido discovers that Mitama has 30,000 followers now, which is very strange because the total number of all the surrounding villagers has not reached 30,000. At this time, Yukido falls into Loki's illusion, in which Loki confesses that she used her power to transfer her followers to Mitama, and that she did this to defeat the monster Typhon. If Typhon approached the Imperial City, he would have caused big trouble. Loki's confession is just like she is showing her power, and she seems to tell Yukido that she can control anything at will. Yukido is unflinching, saying that he has thought of a way to defeat her. After saying that she is looking forward to meeting him in the Imperial City, Loki disappears. After that, Yukido returns to the real world, and he starts to think of everything that happened recently. He had nothing in his original world, but he met many new companions here, who, though strange, are kind, and he is happier than ever before. Seeing his companions, Yukido can't help but think that although this world sucks, it is incredible, and he vows to protect everything in front of him now. That brings the end of the season. At the end of the story, danger may still hide in the happiness between Yukido and his companions. Don't forget that Loki's ability is to create illusions. Perhaps what Yukido is experiencing is the illusion created by Loki. If this is real, it means that Yukido has been completely under Loki's control. Luckily, Loki doesn't seem to want to hurt Yukido, and maybe this is just a way for her to protect herself. No one knows better than her how powerful Yukido is. Thanks for watching. If you like this anime, please give this video a like and comment in the comment area. See you next time.